Smooth, smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. This is Freshly Pressed. We're looking at the news stories making the headlines across the country. And as always, we love it when you're part of the conversation. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. And we're streaming live on YouTube, Smooth 981 FM Lagos. You can catch the live stream and post a comment. Our analysts this morning, Ikemesit and Joseph, are in. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Zibby.
Good morning, Joseph. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning, Ikemesit.
As you can tell from the crispness of my sound, I am in a certain studio.
Yes, indeed. And you can actually see Ikemesit live on the live stream. And there's a lot of joy this morning, and I love it.
Looking good. I dressed for the live stream.
Right, that is true. Looking good, Ikemesit. You always look sharp. Is it a lawyer thing?
Yeah, it's part of the business.
It's part of the business. You have to. You never know when you're going to meet that.
Yeah.
That is true. Okay, I'll take notes. We're starting off this morning from Punch. Now, the National Economic Council, which comprises of all state governors and Vice President Kashim Shettima, has concluded a plan for state governments to implement conditional cash transfer programs using state-generated social registers. Joseph?
As we said on this program before, the question mark as to the wisdom behind transferring cash to citizens is still not sitting well with people who are reflecting on what has been the trend in the past, where government attempted to do this. And interestingly, the governors and the National Economic Council has come up to say that the previous register for this purpose lacked integrity. And the solution they could prefer is to say that states should now generate the list. And it doesn't make any sense, because the question is, what will then be the guarantee that even the list they generate is going to have any integrity? How do you arrive at that? The argument they made is that, those who were in the previous list, some people down in the villages and so on, they could not verify their existence and so on. The question is, how do you get to, and some of those people are not bankable, yet they want to reach them, and they want to draw a list for them. So how are you going to transfer money to somebody who is not bankable? So a whole lot of contradictions are mixed in this whole thing. And last time when we were here, Ikemesit raised the question as to the modalities, the criteria you're going to use to select people and so on. For me, I think that anything of this sort that politicians handle can never have credibility or integrity. And the system for, if at all we should even do this, I don't believe that's the way to go. And Labour has pointed it out. This money should have been invested in transportation, ordering vehicles, maybe whatever that could immediately have an impact on people. I know some states are buying buses and so on. For instance, the River State, I saw maybe a 16 or 17, 20 or something seater bus, and it's labeled an intervention for this. And I wonder how many persons that will carry. But if you're investing in bigger buses and that you're spending this money on that level of transportation across the country, there's immediate economy created around there, and it will have more ripple effects. These arguments have been made, but it looks like they are bent on doing this, and it doesn't sound very well. In the private sector where I was, when it came to distributions and things of this nature, the most credible way to do it is to involve NGOs, third parties who can very dispassionately go through the process of registration of people and generate a list that is credible. That is, if at all we have to do this. But I doubt that that is the best way to go. Distributing money won't solve our problem. It's just going to create additional challenges. And as they have already criticized the previous register, there is no way they can guarantee credibility. We have politicians flooding the list. They will flood the list whoever they want. It will become a partisan thing. So if you're not a member of our party, why should we put your name on the list? And that is not going to help anybody.
Thank you, Joseph, for that. Ikemesit, do you want to add something?
The only thing I want to add is word. I mean, completely agree. I completely agree with you. Joe, there are just too many unanswered questions. And the funny thing is, the government has had time, right? Since May 29, we've been having this conversation. All we've been asking for are details. How are you going to implement this? Who is going to be eligible? How much money are you actually putting into this? How much money is being contained, right? By each beneficiary over the course of the month? How would you monitor compliance? There are so many basic questions that still remain unanswered 2.5 months plus into this, that you almost wonder if the unwillingness of the government to actually wrestle with the details of this is deliberate and is a cover for all of the usual things that happen when schemes of this nature come up, right? You know, the final bit I want to mention is I was having this conversation with some colleagues in the office just yesterday, and one of my colleagues actually reminded me that temporary social fixes and measures in Nigeria often become permanent. Lots of people forget. I mean, many people actually don't even know the history, so it's not as if they've actually forgotten. Many people don't know, for example, that the subsidy regime was a temporary measure, right, from the late 1970s to cushion the effect of rising oil prices at the time, right, in the aftermath of a particular war in the Middle East and the fact that, you know, Middle East and OPEC members tried to use, you know, the oil price as a geopolitical tool. So basically, the original subsidy regime was supposed to be a valve to basically cushion the full-on effect of rising international oil prices on Nigerian consumers. And we inherited that, and we've had 2 generations of Nigerians that came and saw, right, the entire life cycle of the subsidy regime. If you start something like this now, chances are, considering the elevated poverty levels and the elevated levels of social and economic deprivation that we have in this country, that it will become a semi-permanent feature of Nigerian politics. That's why, for Joseph and for me, it's important that now that we're having this conversation about this, let's ensure if we're going to do this, it's properly designed. If it's not properly designed, we might have another 40 plus years of basically repeating the same experience we had with, you know, with the subsidy regime, basically.
All right, let's go. Thank you, Ikemesit. On to some messages coming through via WhatsApp. Lekon says palliative should be focused on improved electricity, better road networks, alternative sources of energy for transport, mass transit solutions, local refining, and politicians tightening their belts as well, not just the people. And Idima Puza says everything about the palliative seems shady. Who are the poor in society? Are they party members? Let the money be invested in revamping our refineries and on transportation units. From the Daily Trust, the National Economic Council endorsed the proposed mass deployment of CNG vehicles to all states for public transportation.
So what's actually in today's news docket, right? It's from the National Economic Council, because they sat yesterday. This basically was the spokesperson from the Office of the Vice President saying that the NEC endorsed the proposed mass deployment of compressed natural gas vehicles to all states for public transportation. Again, thin on details, but technologically, the general consensus is that CNG-powered vehicles are cleaner. They run on cleaner fuels. I mean, it's still fossil-based fuel, right? So for all the climate activists out there, this isn't the best solution, as it were, or the most ideal solution on the market, but certainly better than petrol and diesel. Since we don't manufacture these things, obviously these things have to be imported. So there are important questions around at what cost, when will this be, when will implementation of this start? And basically, the NEC is trying to onboard this as part of its measures to to help manage the cost of living crisis, right, that we're dealing in the country. To my mind, I think that the NEC should prioritize more immediate or short-term measures as measures that people can immediately feel, right, on the streets. One of the things around public transportation, because I mean, it gets mooted and talked a lot by our politicians and also by people. I think one of our listeners actually just proposed this, is I don't know that the challenge is or the bigger challenge is a lack of public transportation options. Obviously, in cities like Lagos and also to a lesser extent Abuja and Port Harcourt, public transportation isn't exactly amazing, right? So yeah. Most Nigerians use public transportation because they just cannot afford either a private vehicle or there's almost no other option, as it were. But the public transportation options themselves are not incredible to use. So in that sense, upgrading the infrastructure and having new vehicles obviously helps. But I'm also thinking about the fact that the primary problem is affordability, right? Is that fares are rising. It's that, people you see even here in Lagos, right? People are actually, trekking home, I was going to say walking, but there's a difference between walking and trekking. People are actually trekking from the house to the office and from the office back home, as it were. So I think the primary issue is affordability. And the question then becomes, what are you doing about affordability? So in onboarding the CNG-powered vehicles, will Nigerians be able to afford those fares? I think that's the primary concern. In fact, if you solved or you attacked the affordability issue and still retained the present public transportation mix that we had, that's a low-hanging fruit that you can actually, deploy and get off the ground in a matter of days, if not weeks, right? And people are able to feel that. So if you say, okay, fares will be subsidized, fares will be capped at a particular point, whatever solution or whatever approach it is you want to adopt, I think that is going to be something which will be more immediate than waiting for you to have new infrastructure, getting people to create an entire scheme around it, then getting people, right, who are going to drive those buses, and then at that point trying to figure out what fares will be like. Why not just attack the issue of fares to begin with, so that people are able to get home, get to work, create a living for themselves, go to church, go to the mosque, whatever it is that they need to do. Affordability is the primary concern. And if solutions are not primarily geared towards attacking the main issue, which is affordability, we're just speaking English and writing press statements, really. Let's be frank with ourselves.
All right, thank you, Ikemesit, for that. From Punch, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has signed terms of agreement with UTM Offshore for the construction of Nigeria's first indigenous 1.5 million ton per annum floating liquefied natural gas project. Joseph?
A lot of people always talk about why oil companies flare gas and all that. The truth simply is that we underutilize gas in Nigeria. Nigeria is more of a gas producing country than an oil producing country. That's the truth. We have tons of, billions of gas on the ground. Now, when we produce oil and we are unable to utilize the gas, we flare it. We have to just burn it safely. Flaring means just burning the gas safely. Now, anything that can help us use more gas, whether it's LNG, CNG, whatever form of gas, it is very, very welcome. And I think NNPC should have since embraced. In fact, there has not been a whole lot of issue about our gas policy that hasn't encouraged investment. But what has happened, the gas policy was simply trying to control the price of an international commodity locally. So our gas sells like hotcake. I mean, NLNG, for example, has most of its cargoes booked 22 years in advance. So if the market is there, the ready market, what it means is that some countries run basically on gas. The incident in Johannesburg yesterday was gas explosion. That means that gas has been piped into homes and offices and everywhere. So people use gas. What those countries who don't have gas do is that they buy it in a liquid form from countries like Nigeria, special tanks, ships that carry this gas in a liquefied form when it has been condensed into liquid. Then they get it over there and then convert it back into the gaseous state. and then they can pipe it to their homes and so on. We don't have such networks. We don't have such gas utilization network where homes are using gas and all that, and like the way we connect electricity. So the more we can utilize gas, or even harness the one that is the natural one that's in the ground. So oil companies can now stop, it will help to reduce flaring, because the gas they are burning, they will now be able to sell it to companies like this that can now produce LNG with it, or produce CNG, or produce liquefied petroleum gas. So this is a very welcome development. I think it's actually late. We are starting late, and then the Petroleum Industry Act has helped to make this process faster. And I think that NNPC should be in that lead in encouraging more companies to be able to harness our gas. And then some projects are going on, the Abuja-Kaduna gas line, and some other ones that are going on. They're all part of this effort to see that we are able to tap our gas and use it meaningfully and derive benefit from it.
All right, thank you for that, Joseph. Let's go on to WhatsApp. JP says, it's important to state gas is a transition fuel for us and always a plus. Mass transit buses and crop carrying vehicles need to go on gas, and backward integration is a must do with companies like Innocent. Government just needs to be intentional and sincere. Fares go down on CNG and LPG. Put monies in the production of these. Cisco Delgado says, how safe is flaring of gas? If Nigeria is organized and planned, instead of flaring up the gas, they can be used to generate power. And Rezi says, without addressing the adverse effects of the subsidy removal on people, goods and services, it will basically be chasing the wind. Affordable mass transportation is all we expect. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Do stay with us. The show continues. Superstar.
Hi, people. My name is Praise. I'm playing good music. Stay tuned to Smooth 98.1. An orchestra. Watching you move, it's like listening to a symphony of body parts directed by a maestro. When you walk, it is like watching a G clef stroll across an octave centered by a C sharp. When you talk, the cadence of your voice is a tenor saxophone, making love to a cello at perfect pitch. And you are so smooth. That's why we keep it here on 98.1. This is just leading on Simon.
All right, we're getting back on.
Go back and don't test like that.
You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Our analysts this morning, Ikemesit and Joseph. Let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981. You can also tweet at Smooth981 and catch the live stream up on our YouTube channel, Smooth 91 FM Lagos. From Daily Trust, the acting Comptroller General of the Nigeria Immigration Service, Caroline Adepoju, has stated that illegal immigration has drastically reduced because the service no longer allows immigrants into the country through irregular routes and borders.
You know, when I initially saw the headline, right, it threw away. Illegal, so this is the Daily Trust headline. Illegal immigrants no longer allowed into Nigeria. I thought I was like, they were once allowed. The headline was very, the headline was, it could have been written better. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, so the acting Comptroller General of the Nigerian Immigration Service was actually talking on television yesterday. I'm basically just talking about the fact that her service has significantly clamped down on illegal immigration. Obviously talking about, because Nigeria's borders, like most African borders, was artificially generated by non-Africans, right? You have a situation where in our border areas, there's usually broad cultural and ethnic, and social cultural affiliations. I'm from a maritime border region, for example, in Nigeria, and like something like a third of my family is Cameroonian, for example. So I can pass as Nigerian, I can pass as Cameroonian. I've got lots
We
of
need to see your
relatives
passports.
That's beside the point of this conversation. So I'm just saying I could pass. I guess I actually do. Right. But so in any case, right, there are many people who have leveraged that in the past to get into the country. It's also worth noting, for example, Nigeria is a signatory to the ECOWAS Treaty on the free movement of goods and services and peoples, right, as it were. So you don't need visas to travel to travel within the ECOWAS region. And so people can use that to go to Nigeria. But according to what the CG was saying, yes, you can do that, but you still need sort of proper travel documents, right? And so basically, the charge was use legal immigration routes, which almost feels like an odd thing to say because of it's pretty obvious and evident. The one bit away from illegal immigration, the one comment that she made, which sort of stood out to me, was when she said that the service was looking to introduce online passport renewal so that people would not have to visit immigration offices to renew their passports. My response to that was, once upon a time, that mechanism existed. The immigration service itself was the one that gutted those services. And as anybody who has tried to renew their passports, right, within the last 2 years, right now,
Yes.
knows that is an absolute blood sport. The fact that the NIN, the national identification number component, has now been added on top of it, and in many cases, that is where the bottleneck is, because the NIN verification portal doesn't work the vast majority of the time when you go to the immigration offices. Means that it's just absolutely stressful. I had a colleague, for example, who spent the entire day, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, right? And she still wasn't able to get her biometric capture done. And then the fact that you have to do the biometric capture over and over again, it's almost as though the system is designed to ensure that the least amount of Nigerians get, international travel documents. Maybe because many Nigerians are living in the country, they just want to make it difficult. I don't know. At this point, all conspiracy theories are on the table. The fact of the matter is that illegal immigration is a challenge and an issue, yes, but I mean, even for the Nigerians who need legitimate travel documents because they want to legitimately use legitimate migration routes in order to leave the country, or at least travel or come in and out of the country, make it easy to.
Thank you.
Charity begins
talking about the NIN issue. My NIN is being repudiated. I mean, I validly registered it, but it's being repudiated. Even the NC and NEC is unable to resolve the issue. I've been there. I sent my particulars to CAC. CAC says no, there's something wrong with my NIN. I went to the office. Till today, it's not resolved.
And apparently there are various layers of NIN. So there's what's called a bank generated NIN. You've got the one, you've got the one that you get when you register. Let's take note. NIMC actually started this exercise for the first part under Obasanjo, during the Obasanjo administration for the first time. So the first time I ever registered for a NIN was back then. As it turns out, a lot of those registrations have been invalidated. So it's confusing. There's very little clarity on the entire situation. And it's only when you are pressed for time, you want to travel, you want to get a passport, you want to access CAC services, you want to register a company, you want to file your tax returns, because all of these things now have NIN embedded in it. Or you want to open a bank account, and then you realize, something that I did in 2006 or 2005 has been invalidated. I have to go do it all over again. Then you try to do it all over again, and then the portal isn't working. It's a Friday morning. Zibby said we should maintain positive energy.
Yes.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to The Guardian. The House of Representatives calling on NERC, which is the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, to put a stop to the planned increase in electricity tariff, at least for now.
A valid call. I mean, the times are not good. And if any business at all is sensitive, they should know that this is not the best time to embark on an exercise like this. I think the discourse themselves have held back because there was a whole lot of frenzy in June in anticipation that 1st of July will be hit with the tsunami of a new tariff and all that. but somehow by his
Thank
grace,
God he did not.
they held back. And I remember myself having to load extra on
Yeah, I
my
did
tariff.
too.
I ordered. I got
I
tokens.
know.
Yeah, just in anticipation. But I think they are just stating the obvious. This is not the best time to have this conversation with the customers. What should be done? And these are areas we expected that government should be making interventions. You expect that the government is, if there's where you want to subsidize, put money in energy costs, help the discos to put their rates low by intervening, giving them some support and so on. Even in transportation, I think transport owners can even be given some funds so that they can keep their prices at what it is. Those are the kind of things we expect to hear, and not we want to dish out 5,000 or 8,000 to 60 million, 12 million people for 6 months and whatever and all those things.
I love this point you mentioned, Joseph, because there is one very big thing that the government can do with respect to power and electricity. There are legacy debts which date not only from the time of NEPA's infrastructure when NEPA was actually a thing, but also from the oh gosh, English is failing me right now. And also from the construction of what were those things that were constructed right during
the meters?
Your eras. No. Those transmission stations.
Oh, okay. Power substations also.
Yeah, all of those ones. Anyway, the point is this: you've got all of those legacy debts, which a lot of the discos and a lot of the gencos, right? In the process of acquiring and getting their licenses, were compelled by the government to acquire. The government has not paid down on those commitments. They run into the billions of dollars, right? The government can channel funds into that. One of the things that has continued to hold our electricity sector hostage is because the gencos, but primarily the discos, have been saying we can't invest in infrastructure because a lot of these projects are not bankable. We have monies that have basically been trapped. The government basically owes us on those legacy commitments. They're actually called legacy debts that have still not been paid down. And so the only way we can generate revenue in order to continue to invest in infrastructure is to charge more. So why don't you help orchestrate a freeze on the multi-year tariff order, which is basically the basis for which electricity prices, right, are calculated, right? And pay down on those commitments so that you immediately infuse cash into the system, and then you basically tell everyone within all of the various chains, transmission, generation, distribution, okay, you have these monies, devote a certain chunk of it, 10%, 15%, 20%, build out infrastructure, get people properly metered, get distribution and transmissions done, connect people to the national grid. 40% of Nigerians are not even connected to the national grid to begin with. And then we start this cycle of progress, not just willy-nilly increasing tariffs or allowing the private investors no other option than to increase tariffs and then heaping more pain on end users and consumers.
We the people.
Is that frightening? Yeah.
That's a subsidy. Are we back?
Yeah.
All right, let's look at the messages we have coming through. Z-Man says, why do we always put the cart before the horse? The FGN is planning to start conversion of fuel cost to gas now after subsidy has been removed. And Dami from Ikemesit says...
Sorry, but in fairness to them, in the last administration, they started the conversion and they actually offered it free to Nigerians. But that's a different matter. I don't get that. They actually started.
They didn't sell it. They didn't do it.
They didn't sell it. Yeah, that's exactly. They didn't sell it to anybody.
It was half-hearted. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the clarification. Dami says we've got BVN, NINs, and so many others. Why is it hard to identify the poor among us? The same people who mismanage fuel subsidies, and the national carrier could mismanage this palliative as well. Gilbert says, like it was said, Nigeria is a gas producing country more than an oil producing one, but caution not to be the watchword, according to a resource person in the oil and gas industry. In a media session with journalists in 1997, Nigeria has to build a sensitive master plan for gas distribution because any careless gas project or network could ignite a city. Jesse fire explosion in Delta State from a leaking petrol pipe in October 1998 on my mind. He is actually.
I mean, it is.
He actually is.
1997. Wow.
He goes way back.
Yep.
Anthony says the music we're singing about migration to gas today may be turned into another tomorrow because the hunters in the energy sector are lying in wait for us there also. When patronage increases, they'll raise prices arbitrarily and tell us a story about exchange rates that we do not know. All right. Cisco Delgado says, yes, I was the STC, which is the state coordinator too for Anambra State during the NIMC registration in 2000, 2001. For the fact that we didn't have a good database, the captured data becomes invalid. All right. Thank you for your messages. Thank you for listening. But that is all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Special thanks as always to our analysts this morning, Ikemesit and Joseph, for joining us. Thank you.
Total pleasure.
Yeah, it's always fun being here. Thanks so much, Zibby, Ikemesit, brilliant contributions we made. And to Lagos, have a wonderful weekend. Everybody, awesome. Stay safe.
Yes, indeed. The weekend. That is it for Freshly Pressed. You stay with us. There's a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.
All right.
Thank you so much, Joseph.
All the best. All the best. Have fun.
Bye.
Enjoy.
Bye. Yeah.
Gonna have to just